And so good evening for those who are here and those who are online. I'm Dr. Deisha Williams, the Dean of the College of Education and Social Work. It is such a pleasure to be here to greet you for our fall 2021 Student Open Forum. Philly edition, that is. We had one last week. And so this is a Philly edition of our open forum. I also want to introduce Dr. Maria Stetter. She's online. Wave, Maria, so they can see who you are.
Hi, everybody.
She is our associate dean, and she will be, adding to the conversation as we go along and helping to answer questions, as well as taking notes and helping to monitor the chat box. The open forum is just that. It's an open forum. We value your opinions. We value hearing from students so that we can know how to, do what we need to do to make sure that your journey is as successful as possible. Because the whole point is for you to graduate, go out there and impact the world, right? So we need to hear from you. We did one last spring. We did one this fall, and we plan to do another one in the spring. Our plan is to do one a semester so that we can hear from you. And each time after we come back, we will tell you what we did with the feedback you provided, so that you'll know that all the time we won't be able to incorporate everything you say, but at least you know that we heard you and we are using it as input to incorporate into the decision-making of the university. I'll give you some examples from our last meeting in the spring. We met with the leaders of each of the student organizations. We met with the president and the vice president of each of the student organizations of the college. We talked about things that students felt like they needed to move forward, being in an online environment at that time. As well, we talked about communications, and we're going to talk about that again today, because we know that students, your programs, you have amazing faculty and amazing leaders in each of your departments, and they communicate with you in many, many effective ways. But if we need to get information to you from a university, from a college level, what is the best way? Are you going to check your email? Are you going to check the website? Are you going to, is social media the best way? So we're trying to find out ways to communicate with students so that we know that you are getting the information from a college level. We have a couple of questions for you. And so we want open participation, please. And Maria, help scream when you see people online, because I'm going to try to look both ways. And then we'll open it up for questions from you guys. So our first question is, now we're back face-to-face after being online for 3 semesters, if you're not counting the summers, 3 academic semesters. How's it going? And if you're online, just talk, don't type it, please, because we won't see it. Is it going okay? Do you need anything? What support systems do you need? How are you feeling about being back face-to-face? Yeah, go ahead.
I think the semester brings a lot of uncertainty. Like people are optimistic on finishing the semester, close to graduation. We'll post everything like this in the community itself, so balance, and then COVID is a lot of worry.
So a lot of I'm just repeating one to make sure I can hear you, and so that the people online can hear as well. That a lot of uncertainty and about completing the year out, or uncertainty about what the university is going to do or what the world is going to do with this idea of COVID.
Yeah, the combination of both.
Okay. Well, I can't speak for the world, but right now, our senior administration are closely monitoring the COVID numbers on campus, all campuses, and making decisions based on that. If you go to the homepage, there is a COVID link right on the top left-hand side. It provides a dashboard that gives you very important information about what the COVID numbers look like, from testing to positive test and things like that. It has a tree to help you know what to do if you were to become, test positive for COVID. What are the steps you are to take? How to make sure that you stay on track with your classes? What to do to make sure you keep your classmates and your faculty and the whole Westchester community safe. It has great resources on there for that. So always check the Westchester homepage for additional information. They update it very often when things change. So just keep on track of that. But Westchester has no intention of going back remote unless, you know, the numbers and the dynamics change. But right now, we love being back. I am just, you know, ecstatic to see students walking around. I don't know if y'all realize it, because I've spoken to some of the people here. This space, they say it's creepy with you guys not here. Recitation is creepy with nobody in there. So we are really happy to see you guys back on campus, because it's just not the same. So Westchester has no plans of changing it and going back unless absolutely necessary. Did you have a question? Speak up just a little loud. Yeah, on the same page.
I was thinking it's interesting because, so I've told students this, but right now I'm teaching a class on Monday nights.
Oh,
it's me. Yeah, you can't see my mouth, my mask, right? It's out. On Monday night with students who are in their first semester, first year. So this is kind of like how they're coming into the grad program for the first time. And then on Tuesdays, I have students who are in their last year, which for many of them is their third. Some fourth, and so they like started out in person, kind of weathered the whole COVID thing, and are now in this space. So it's been interesting to see like students, you know, kind of coming in at different points during this. But I think everybody's been really like making the best of it, which has been cool to see. I think our Monday night class, we usually have about half, right? Half in person and half on Zoom. How do you feel that's going? Do you want to say anything about that?
I love being in person. I am not like a Zoom university. That's just not my particular learning style. So yeah, I kind of like live in fear of like if one day it'll all just like shut down again. But it's nice to hear that there aren't any plans unless there was this like sort of catastrophic change.
Tell me your name.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth, so for those of our viewing audience online, Elizabeth said that she likes being on campus and she likes being here, and she's glad to hear that Westchester doesn't have any current plans to switch to remote. And then Alice, what's your last name? I'm trying to remember.
That's okay. No.
Neff. Dr. Neff was talking about just the different dynamics of those who are like starting out their programs, coming back full time versus those who has experienced this transition from being face-to-face to being online and now going back. I mean, that's a huge conversation there, because those of us who, like me, who did all of our schooling face-to-face, did all of my preparation face-to-face, and then, you know, having to swap to do online teaching and online learning, and now having to go back, you know I got used to just keeping on my sweats and, you know, dressing from the waist up, you know, it's a little different now. So that's a very valid question of, you know, how are you not just from a learning academic stance, but from a mental health stance? All the hands go up on that one.
From a Donald Phillip, from a mental health stance, I think it was comforting to know that we have the hybrid style, because due to the uncertainties, we know that, okay, if we can't make it, if this has to be changed for some reason, school is not going to stop. We have the option, and then as we see things progressing nicely, we come back out to class. And Dr. Telly has been encouraging us, you know, to come out, and that has been good. But it's comforting to know that we have the option, and things are not going to stop. But there's will be a flow.
Right. And before I come back here, I want to make sure I don't forget our online audience. Is there any feedback, Maria? I see the chat just scrolling, but I can't read it that fast. Dr. Stetter, okay. But yes, the hybrid option is definitely, you know, something I think that gives us opportunities that, I mean, I think it's created a lot more opportunities in the way we learn, in the way we communicate, in the way we meet with you guys when you have projects, and you not have to say, everybody, when can we meet at this spot to talk about it? You can just, you know, Zoom very quickly to have those discussions. But one of the things I want to emphasize is that when you are sick, be sick and just take care of yourself and get well. we have a process through our student services where you can go through and get all that sick is as a excused absence, and then your professors will work with you to make sure that you get caught up on your work. But you cannot learn when you are sick and trying to get well, take care of yourself, and focus on your learning. Now, if you are like, all of us have been kind of sick and not really want to go to class, but well enough that we can still learn, then yes, the hybrid option is a great option. But please do not feel like you have to attend class when you are sick. We want you to get well so that you can be your best self. All right, I saw other hands up here when we talk about mental.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really appreciate the hybrid option as well, because like I'm in Philadelphia and like we're full time and a lot like going on in my life. So it's nice to know that like I don't have to rush on way to this campus, I don't live pretty far away and I can just like log in and still get my work done. It really helps because I probably wouldn't be able to do that option.
All right, and I saw one more hand.
The hybrid one's been really nice. I came back to school when my son was 7 months old. And so all of my professors here, like they watched him grow up pretty much. He just turned 3 this week.
Oh,
But when COVID happened, like I lost my childcare for him. Nobody wanted to come in the house and things like that. And then coming back to this semester and doing my senior internship, like I was like really anxious about, okay, I gotta put him in daycare now and things like that. But the hybrid's nice because, if he gets sick or I have to tend to him or for whatever reason, I can still hop on and be on class. But I do really enjoy when I am in person because I miss that like, sense of having these deep social work conversations or just
Right.
adult conversations. Yeah.
those adult conversations are
Not
important.
Ellen or like whatever.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anything from the viewing audience?
Not yet, but really would like to hear. Dr. Panichelli suggested that students in 495 discuss their experiences. Dr. Panichelli, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I don't want to say too much because I want students to share, but I know that just when we got started in the first week of the course, it was I think it was like a little anxiety provoking for myself, I'll say, and for students, just about how we would
Please speak up just a little bit.
Oh, okay. I feel like I'm shouting already. So I felt like I was feeling anxious about us all fitting into the room that we were in, and just a little unsure of how things were going to go. And so I know some students talk to me about their own fears and their own anxieties about being on campus, but then also about like either being worried about being in person or being worried about being on Zoom. And so for some classes, I've tried to do the HyFlex, and that seems to have made things a little bit harder and kind of leave a lot of us confused in the space. So I know that my students have like a lot of different experiences, and so I just want to encourage folks online to say things because this is our opportunity to share.
Students, please thank your professors that are providing the hybrid options. They didn't have to, but they are because they recognize your needs. And it's a lot of work because I'm just doing this for this hour and trying to make sure I'm focusing on here and giving the people online their due time and make sure I give you your due time. It's difficult. It's not easy. So definitely, send a shout out and a thank you to your professors, because that is it's a tremendous service and effort that they're giving, to you to make sure that they're meeting your needs.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will share. I'm sorry, I'm online. So I'll share. I do appreciate my professors and the flexibility that we have been given to do our classes online. As we got closer to the semester starting, I became more anxious, and it kind of surprised me that I did. So having that ability to choose to do it remotely has been great and helpful, and just the flexibility overall going from in-person to online to, you know, back in person. Overall, Westchester has been great, and our professors have been great and flexible. So I appreciate that, because I didn't know what online learning, how that was going to be for me. But it has been overall a good experience, and I appreciate my professors in Westchester for making that a better experience than it might have been otherwise.
Yes, and I'm Victor Peterson, and I really appreciate my professors just being able to get on the Zoom. I'm here in Philadelphia, actually Montgomery County. But right now I'm feeling a little anxious because of the possibility of not being able to get on Zoom. I've been trying to get an elective since registration has started, and I've actually have started looking at classes on campus, and that's going to be very difficult trying to come from Philadelphia to Westchester. By the time I get off work, it's like from my job to the car, straight to Westchester, and getting home, go to bed, get back up, and go to job. So I'm kind of hoping that there will still be some remote classes. I'm kind of hoping that they won't take them completely away, or just take away the option for our professors to allow us to do it. So I'm kind of anxious on that, and still trying to find that elective.
Well, let me
But I am-
try to ease a little bit of that for you. That Westchester has no intention of taking the hybrid option away for spring. It won't say it in the schedule. It'll still say in person, because it's up to the professor to make that determination. So I encourage you to speak with your advisor and to the professor of the course that you're interested in to see if they will be offering that option.
I think that there may be some confusion between hybrid and Iflex.
Okay.
So we need to make sure that we understand what everybody's saying, because hybrid, there's a special designation for that class, right? Iflex, the professor can make the decision if they're going to offer Iflex, which means that you have to be home, it'll be synchronous, you have to be in person at home at the same time that the class meets. Hybrid may have an asynchronous component to it, and those designations have already been made on the schedule. So you will also see hybrid, but not the asynchronous.
Correct. Could you guys hear what Dr. said? Yes, no. Give me a head nod. Did y'all hear him?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yes, thank you for that clarification. I've definitely heard people use them interchangeably, and they're
You have
not.
to.
Yeah, I've done it. So, but they're not. They're very, very distinctive options. Did you ever?
I was gonna say, I'm in Dr. Panichelli's Monday night class. I think we all appreciate it because we saw how much work it took on her end to do the Iflex format. But then there was a lot of times where, like, you know, she probably had group work or activities planned out that makes it awkward because you can't see each other as a person. Sometimes you can't hear people and things like that. So she gave everybody in the class a voice, you know, like, let's decide, you know, if maybe like there's 1 or 2 classes a month will come in person, the rest are on Zoom, break us out in groups that way. And then met with us in our smaller groups, which was really nice because we were able to feel like we were getting kind of like one-on-one attention on our certain assignments that we were doing. So like specific things that each of us was working on.
Right. Other comments?
Dr. Ocasio, did you want to add anything? You had encouraged students to talk about this question between in-person and hybrid and online options, but was there anything specific you wanted to bring up?
Thank you. Not particularly. I mean, I'm really interested to hear what students, you know, have to say about it. The class that I encouraged to come tonight is my 542 class, which is fully online. And so we do have certain courses that are fully approved through CAPC for online.
And we're looking at, what student needs are for those courses. And then we have electives, and we are expanding our availability of electives that are fully approved online. So, we're really interested to hear what students' needs are and what your wants are, because, we have lots of different options. So some of the students here tonight are in these sort of high flex environments, but some are in a fully online class, like Victor and Sar, who spoke earlier.
Yes.
I would like to share something. I really appreciate.
One second, hang on one second. We got someone speaking here. I'll come to you next. I just wanted to see what the university took into consideration about the pandemic and the elective courses. Like some of the elective courses were available online, like totally online. But I don't know if I speak for anyone else, but the amount of work that's like expected, like some of the elective classes, and it's still being a pandemic, like we're not out of the way with it. I just wonder, like, from a whole, like, was it, really taken into consideration, especially with the adult returning students, and with like everything that, like, work, school, family, and things like that, the amount of work that we still have to do because we still want to get to the finish line. But sometimes I see that it's like a whole lot, right? For like,
overwhelming, you got life and school, everything. When they give out so much work, and forgetting that you still got other, courses and things to her too. So I gotta agree with her on that.
well, thank you for that. And the professors, this is like amazing to have so many professors on this call, hearing this firsthand from you guys. So this is amazing. But also remember, they have certain competencies they got to make sure that you get before you graduate. So some of it is unavoidable, so there has to be a balance, because they can't graduate you and say, well, they know this amount and they haven't been able to demonstrate it. So CSWE says you have to know this, and this. So some of the work, level of work is just unavoidable because of the amount of competencies that the accreditors say that you have to graduate. But they hear you, and hopefully they can find some innovative ways to find a happy medium.
Dean Williams, I'm sorry to bump in, but I think many of us online missed the first part of that. So would you mind terribly summarizing? And
Yes.
Then there was someone here online, was it Denny?
Yes, I was going to come back to her. Yes.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I just really didn't do okay with your name. I apologize.
So the question that was presented here, or the comment, was the amount of work for electives when so much is going on in life, work, and please, if I missed something, let me know. But with life and work and trying to find a balance between school, that the amount of work in the electives can be quite overwhelming. And so my response was that professors are hearing that. There's lots of professors on this call, so they're hearing that feedback, but also to realize that a balance has to be made because of the amount of competencies that we are required to make sure that they have when they graduate. Okay. So is it Denise?
Oh yes. I just want to talk about my experience in hybrid class. I really appreciate to have this opportunity because at the beginning, my first not only about COVID, but it's also about the safety because the class that I can take is at night. And personally, I really fear or taking public transportation at night due to the high crime that is being increased recently. So that's something that it worry me a lot. So that's why I would rather taking like hybrid class at this moment.
Well, the hybrid option is definitely not hybrid. High flex option is still there. And for the hybrid, you just have to make sure you pick that course that has that hybrid designation in the schedule. But the high flex is up to each of the professors. So if you have a course, you find a class that says in person and you're interested in finding out if it's going to have a high flex option, I just encourage you to email the professor to find out. So my next question is about supports. So your faculty, I mean, they provide phenomenal amount of support to both the BSW and the MSW programs. So my question is, from a college level, how else can we support you from the college level?
I know that last year I reached out to the counseling services, and it could be because like COVID was going on, they were really overwhelmed. But I reached out twice and I never heard back from anybody. And I reached out to them because I had the mental health services I was receiving outside of the university. I had issues with it, like with my insurance, and I remember that, oh, I paid tuition, this is part of my tuition when I see it. So I was, you know, I had professors like saying reach out, and then I never heard back. And so then I kind of just like gave up.
I'm sorry.
And I
that
don't
happened, yeah.
like look at it in a negative way, because I do understand that, like, I'm sure they had such an influx of, but I do think that that's important to be on the radar.
It's very important, and I appreciate you for sharing that. I'm sorry that they didn't get back to you, but you're absolutely right. You know, it was just overwhelmingly amount. I know they had basically all hands on deck during that time, but there's still no excuses. But so thank you for that feedback, and I'll be sure to share it with it. So I do want to share just briefly something that is on the horizon, and it may even be new to some of your professors that's coming out. We're getting a new platform for the university, and it's called Navigate. And that platform is going to be a kind of a two-way communication, or even more, you know, multiple methods of communication between your professors, your advisors, and various centers on campus. So let's say you're talking to a professor and you're saying, hey, I'm having these concerns that, you know, some mental health concerns or whatever. So they will ping the counseling center. So the system will allow them to ping the counseling center. Or if you're having difficulty writing, it will ping the writing center or the tutoring center or whatever resources on campus is needed based on the situation. So then they have now a list, that particular resource, to say, hey, Nadia's supposed to call me. Nadia didn't call me. So now they're going to reach out to you. So hopefully this can help with some of that. It's going to help with advisement. It's going to help with resources, so that there's this multiple ways of communication. So let's say, you know, you talk to Dr. Tully and then you talk to me. I can see what you said to Dr. Tully in the field notes that will be kept in the system. So it will help with that communication between multiple locations and multiple resources on campus. So that's on its way. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to help with a lot of communication and a lot of, because sometimes students, you know, will say, hey, we think you need to reach out to this resource, and then life happens and we just don't do it. But then that resource will reach out to you. And so hopefully between one way or the other, the resource will be taken care of.
Dean Williams, we have a question from a student. Victoria says, what about a course that is not offered as HyFlex? What is recommended to do then? I'm asking as a 7-month pregnant student who is struggling with anxiety about in-person learning because of COVID. Thank you, Victoria, for your sharing.
Well, there's a couple of ways, given your situation, that can be handled. I mean, one, have a very straight up conversation with your professor about, you know, what's going on. Secondly, we have our OSSD, the Office of Student Services, with a student search office of, help me with the acronym, OSSD.
Students
with disabilities.
I think disabilities is in there.
And the D is disability. I can't remember which S is student and which F is S is services. But that office can provide accommodations for various, they say disabilities, but various medical conditions, which pregnancy could fall up under that. I'm not the one to make that judgment. They have to make that judgment. But like they made a comment, I know accommodations have been made with people, you know, who break an arm or, you know, have temporary, doesn't have to be a permanent disability, but temporary disabilities, and they could help to write accommodations. So I encourage you to reach out to your professor and also to reach out to that office.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Panichelli had had said, can you clarify that the college level is referencing the College of Education and Social Work, and maybe offer some ways that you support programs in general?
And what was that last sentence? Ways that I support?
Programs in general.
Okay. Yes, I was talking about communication with from the College of Ed and Social Work, not the university at large, because I'm trying to see what we can do. The university does a lot of things, the programs do a lot of things, but some of the things that like this is a way of support of getting information from you, getting information from, we have a leadership team, which is consistent of staff and faculty, where we get information from. We're constantly working with donors to get money to support students. One for social work currently that we have now is a gas transportation grant to help with some of the transportation. We're working with a elder law attorney currently trying to get field placements at her site, as well as get her to start a scholarship for our gerontology students. So that's hopefully gonna come. Dr. Levy is helping with some of that conversation. I see her online. Other ways that we support students, we have our student success coordinators on our main campus. We have Ben here, who helps out here as well. So those are some of the ways that we're supporting students both on campus, at the Westchester campus and at the Philly location.
Thanks, Dean Williams. Vanessa asks, will RUX major and yes minor be offered on the Philadelphia campus? While I am a senior and expecting to graduate spring 22, I would have loved to have had this as an option.
We have the YES program is actually not in the College of Ed and Social Work. The YES program is actually out of the College of Arts and Humanities. So we are working with, I actually thought they had the program out here. Or maybe just a field placement out here, but that program is actually not out of the College of Ed and Social Work. But I can take that feedback to Dr. Hannah, who is the program coordinator. Yes.
So I was just wondering, since we've gotten our international, our travel study programs, they've been approved and we're up and running. There's several students in the room and online that are interested in our previous program. And the last time we were able to run travel study programs, the College of Education and Social Work had a scholarship that students could apply for. Do you know if that's?
I would have to check because as you know,
You weren't here.
right. I mean, I know about the scholarships, but the thing is, I have to go back and check our budgets. This year is very financially tight, as you can imagine. Monies that we've had in the past, we just don't have. The dean usually has discretionary funds that I don't have access to at all. But I can check into that to see if the budget would allow. Also check with CIP students. They do have scholarships for students to travel internationally. So that's our Center for International Programs, headed by Dr. Angela Howard. So I will definitely encourage you to check with that office for some financial supports. All right. So now I'm going to open up the questions for you guys. That was my last question. So what other questions might you have for myself or Dr. Stetter or any other faculty that are online?
I have a question. So main campus has a lot of resources and activities and events that just aren't accessible to all Philadelphia students. From personal experience, while I'm, a Westchester, Philly campus student, I don't feel like I'm part of Westchester because of the differences of what's available to the students here versus what's available to the students on main campus. So is there a plan in place to help, Philly students who may want to go to a game or, join an event or a conference to help transport Philly students or make it, more accessible for us to join in those events and conversations?
Well, that's a good thought. I mean, I don't think that the transportation question has been asked before, at least I haven't heard it asked before about transportation to main campus for those events. That's a university decision, so that's something I can take back and ask, because that's a very good question that I don't think has been posed before that I know of. I know they provided transportation to graduation last May for families, not just the graduate, but for their families. But just to events, I don't know.
That was like one of the smaller silver linings of the pandemic, was that like on Grand Tech, there's a lot of events that was being postponed. I don't think a lot of that. But I guess now since we're back in person, it's like less and less common that they're on Zoom or accessible to us. Like when I go and now look, it's like really awesome events going on. There's just like personal skies ballroom, or like ballroom,
Right.
we are always interested, and yeah, we have like nothing going on, and it doesn't make us feel, I know we're non-traditional students, but it doesn't make us feel like Westchester.
Right. Well, one phenomenal event is happening on September 26th at 1 o'clock.
December?
No, November. I'm sorry, November. See? November 22nd. I know, no. I want to say it's at 1 o'clock. I actually got it on my phone. Let me make sure what time it is.
What is
It is social work for immigrants and refugees, or with immigrants and refugees. I said, Dr. Tully, why are you making me look up what time it is if you know?
1 o'clock.
Thank you.
1 to 2.
We're late on the 22nd or 22nd?
22nd. It is virtual. We just put a few things online from the university. I have to go back and look and see how much is virtual, but it's like stress reliever things to help us, relieving as we're coming up on finals and getting, kind of 3/4 of the way through the semester. Some things to help relieve from stress. So I would check those out as well. But they tried to do, I know for homecoming, a lot of some virtual, some face-to-face kind of things. But I'd love to hear, how else what we can do to help make not feel, but know that you are part of the Westchester family. And we have to look at it, what's feasible, as well.
I was going to say, is there, or could there be a committee of Philadelphia, Westchester students and professors who could plan events specifically for the Philadelphia campus?
I think, don't you guys do that, Susan? Yeah, they do that. So we just need to figure out a way to get, again, that communication piece that I was talking about. How do we get this out to students a lot more? So let's go back to that then. The question on ways to communicate, because that's an important piece. What's the best way for us to communicate that type of information to you? If it says social media, Remind 101, we download that app to your phone. If we put it on the front page of the website, what's the best way? I know we have the Philadelphia newsletter that comes out weekly.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. I didn't know who did that. It's great.
I should say too quickly that we do have a student and community engagement committee.
A little bit louder though for the people online.
The students and community engagement committee meets once a month, so if you're interested, please contact me. That is our
Yeah, when the newsletter has a lot of events that I see that are on campus here in Philly. So definitely check that out. Now I know who's doing that. I said, whoever puts together, now I know who's doing it. Ben works really hard to make sure that those things are coordinated in one spot so that is easily accessible. So we just need to find a way, what is the best way to make sure that you see those things?
So we've had a student comment that phone, email, D2L, all of the above works. Thank you.
Thanks.
I do want to say that if you do have an idea of approach us, let us know, because we certainly want to address a power differential, right? We don't want to create things for you, we want to create things with you.
Absolutely.
We don't know what that with is unless you tell us. So feel comfortable to reach out to us and let us know. Send me an email, send Dr. Williams an email, send your advisor an email. If you do need to get more involved, you're creating that sort of energy, let us know and we're happy to work with you. But you have to let us know as well. We don't want to create things just to check a box and say we did it. You know, we want to make sure that we're responding to their needs.
All right. Other questions or comments?
I guess I would make a comment that having taught for about, can everybody hear me okay? That having taught on the Westchester campus for about 12 years and the Philadelphia campus for all 6 or 7 years that it's existed, I have a pretty good sense of the experiences on both campuses. And I think it's been very interesting tonight. First of all, I appreciate Dean Williams that you're here. I appreciate Associate Dean Stetter is here. What I've been hearing a little bit of theme is that, for example, the experience of having been online during COVID and now returning to in-person on both campuses, I think that one campus is experiencing it a little bit different than another campus. And I think the students are starting to surface that they actually were okay when it switched to online and learned online and the professors switched, and the transition back is more complicated perhaps than it was for the Westchester campus. And then in terms of resources, I think there was a really good theme there that we may create things within our departments, MSW, BSW for the students. But as I think Vanessa pointed out, the university resources are just not the same. And I think the students on the Philadelphia campus have done a really nice job over the years of creating a community here, connecting with one another, and making a good experience. But the reality is that we should work harder to try and get some of the university resources to this campus. I would give you one good example. I know that students in the BSW program in one of our clubs are trying to advocate for a food pantry. We did a big presentation on campus for the Westchester students about a month ago, and we showed the food pantry. And a lot of the Philadelphia students zoomed in and said, why don't we have a food pantry? And to define for everybody what a food pantry is on the Westchester campus, the food pantry not only has food available for any students in need of food, but clothing, school supplies, personal items. We need to replicate that on the Philadelphia campus. We've done a good job with the Student Success Center and what Dennis does. He has replicated the Writing Center and the support services for academics. But what about a food pantry with clothing and items? And what about the example of the counseling service? We need to work harder to get that live on this campus. There's so much that the Westchester campus just has because it is the huge campus.
Right.
But we can still keep advocating. So I really appreciate both of you are here and as representing the administration. And I appreciate that the students are really surfacing some of the differences in how they are approaching their experience at Westchester and some things that they would like. They're doing great work academically. In fact, just for a minute, I'll call in one of the students. I'll call in a couple of Edwina and Judith are in my junior class. And the assignment in my class is to write about a group that you would like to form in Philadelphia, like a support group that addresses an issue that you think needs working on in Philadelphia. It's a different paper when it's written on the Westchester campus for my students there. But Judith and Edwina wrote about violence in the community in Philadelphia. And I realized as they were writing, as adult returning students, they have life experience, they have work experience, they work in schools or agencies where they're already trying to manage that violence, and then they're writing a paper. Edwina or Judith, do you want to say sort of how studying for your BSW and eventually maybe your MSW has evolved out of your work already and your life already, and now you're getting into social work? Whereas for the students I teach on the Westchester campus at 18 or 19 or 20, it's a new experience for them. For Edwina and Judith, representing all the students in my class, they all wrote the paper. It represents for them like something they're returning to school for, and they want to create change. Edwina, do you want to go on who you are and why you're a BSW student and what your dreams are for who you are and want to become?
Yeah, so.
Can you say it loudly? Because the.
So my name is Edwina, and I was driven to go back to school to become a social worker to help after being and working in a learning institution in an elementary school for over a decade and seeing the help and need that the boys that we have in our communities and the amount of murders that happen inside of the schools and the amount of grief that the fellow peers have to take on. So when we have to write something like that on paper, it comes maybe a little theatrical, but it's really realistic. It's really what we're already going through. Even if it's not your major, it's something that you're already a helper, like you're a natural helper because there are kids in need, especially where we live. So this is something that really, really impacts us. So becoming a degree social worker is just more of an impact that our community needs.
Judith, you want to share?
Yeah, Edwina kind of hit the nail on the head. I was a preschool teacher for 5 years, and I realized you really can't work with kids even as young as preschool because they have so much going on in their lives outside of the classroom that it is impossible to teach a kid when they're like experiencing trauma in their home, trauma outside of their home. So I wanted to get into social work because I want to help these kids in a way that's more tangible than just teaching them. So I wanted to be a school social worker, and that's why I went back to school.
Thank you for both of those stories, and thank you, Dr. Sully, for summarizing pretty much what we've been saying all night. So that was a great summary. We are definitely going to, we're recording this, so that's why I'm not taking a lot notes. So like I can go back and listen to it, and I know Dr. Stetter is taking notes as well. So we're going to go back and sit down and speak with, she and I will speak, and then we're going to speak with the leadership team to figure out if there, what we can do. You know, I cannot speak for the university. You know, I can take the information back to the university and see what can be happening there, but I want to see what we can do for you as students within the College of Education and Social Work and Work Services. And so we'll come back to you and say, because I'm gonna call you Dr. A, because I don't want to push your last name. Dr. Tullen and I were just talking about last names, and I don't call you by your last name often. But we were talking about, you know, like we don't want to do things and just like create these things, and that's not what you want. So we want to create these things with you. So we want to take and listen to and go back and kind of review what we've said tonight, and then figure out, okay, how can we work together to build a stronger college here at the Philly campus? So that is our plans. And then we'll come back together again, probably sometime next semester, and keep going from there. And so I'll tell you what I told my son. He's 17, he thinks he knows everything. I love him. He was telling me, he's a junior in high school, and he was telling me all the problems of high school. You know, this is the problem with high school, and this is the problem with high school. And I said, well, then you figure out how to change it. You know, tell me for, I'm out of high school. You know, you figure out how to change it. If he said, well, Mom, I'm a junior, I'm going to be out of here. Well, it may not change for you by the time you get out, but you'll make it better for the people behind you, because we always want to leave a space better than when we found it. So know that change, unfortunately, can be quick in some cases, and other times it takes a little time because we have to go through all the red tape. But hopefully some things we can make more immediate. Some bigger things may take a little time, but it'll be better for the next group coming through. Dr. Stetter, do you have any closing remarks?
Well, I did just want to amplify Vanessa, thank you, Vanessa, you have asked twice. Will Philadelphia have its own Center for Trans and Queer Advocacy or Civic Engagement and Social Impact? So those are really good questions, and those are questions we can definitely follow up on. I wish I had an answer, but I don't. I also appreciated the shout out to Dr. O'Neill for the willingness to give an online option. And there was another question about the food pantry on the Philly campus, so which we've talked about.
I'll tell you, the office is run by Ms. Tiffany Gray, and we will take that feedback back to her. 'Cause again, that's outside the college's realm, but we can definitely take that feedback and see what their plans are. We can definitely see if we could expand the pantry to the Philly campus. I personally don't think that's a big ask. So I think that's something we can do more immediately. Dr. Bucks, are you raising your hand on campus, on camera, Dr. Buck? It's like you're raising your hand.
But I did have another great quote that I would like to share. Shantea said, "A society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in." And I think that's a lovely quote, and definitely something to think about as we try to advocate for positive changes that are requested here. Another shout out to Dr. Meg. And I'd like to say I'm excited because I'm going to be on campus on Wednesday. So I'm going to be on campus for a bit on Wednesday in the afternoon and early evening. So if you have a moment, come see me. I'm happy to chat.
I know that, go ahead.
Shout out to Dr. Tully for the academic, for allowing us to do this, how much kind of lot going on. Me, myself, personally, I got sick mom about to get married and trying to still, make it seem like, so I can appreciate.
Thank you, Dr. Tully.
I just want to use an opportunity to thank you again, the two of you, for listening and starting to hear the differences between the Westchester campus and the Philadelphia campus and some of the needs on this campus that are especially. These students are doing amazing work. I mean, if we'd had more time tonight, Donna and Frida just presented at a conference with Dr. D-Dot. I think this is all BSW. I know the NSW is doing this also. There's just a lot of impressive, this one was on climate change and the unfairness to BIPOC populations with climate change. And they presented with Dr. D-Dot on that. It's amazing work everybody's doing here. And it just is very meaningful that the two of you were here tonight and listening to this. And thank you for everything you were saying about, we will look into that, we will address that, including on the food pantry. It's amazing. So thank you for being here. And I just want to celebrate the students on this campus and how hard they work and the lives they're leading and what they're accomplishing by finishing their BSW degree or their MSW degree.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful campus here, it really is.
And know that, you're always in my thoughts, you're always in my work. My email is always open, so is my Zoom. And if you ever come to Philly, not to Philly, but to Westchester, I'm there. And like I said, Dr. Stetter is committed to being out here once a month. My schedule is a little bit tighter than hers, so I'm committed to at least doing it once a semester, if not once a quarter. Trying to get out here as much as I possibly can. Unfortunately, my calendar is crazy insane, but we cannot get out of here without giving a huge thank you to Keisha Kelly for the work that she has done for the BSW program. She is going on to do some fantastic new things, a new journey in the next couple of weeks, and she's online. But I wanted to tell her thank you amongst all of you guys, and tell her thank you for all the work that she has done, and just good luck in your next journey. And everybody did.
They don't know.
Oh, sorry. It's coming up soon. I didn't know they didn't know. I'm so sorry. Well, sorry, Keisha. Sorry. Sorry. Okay, well, that's conversations for later then. I'm sorry. Did not know it was soon. Consider it so soon. Yes.
Like instead of just the once a semester in person.
Right, just once a semester is honestly what I can do because of all of my commitments. is talking to, but you could, if you have something specific you want to talk about or a concern, you are more than welcome to always reach out to me. But unfortunately, because of the commitment that I have and me trying to go find y'all some money, then that takes up a lot of time. All right, well, we're gonna say good night and have a great one. Good night.